Despite many Raptors fans not agreeing with the overall direction of the team after the trade deadline, it can't be mistaken that Jakob Poeltl is a good player that is going to help this team. So in today's video, we are going to investigate if he is worth the asking price paid by Masai Ujiri at that trade deadline and what impact can you really expect from him going forward. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports, your source for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. We do videos like this and live stream watch parties for as many Raptors games as we can. So if you like what you see from today's video, then please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Help me on my road to 14,000 subscribers. And also, if you find yourself enjoying this particular video along the way, hit that thumbs up button. It does go a long way to supporting the channel. And as you guys can hear, my voice is pretty much back. I'd say it's 90% of the way there, but really needed that weekend off to rest it up and get myself ready for today's video, where we are going in on Jakob Poeltl. So our previous video was just a direct reaction to what we saw from the NBA's trade deadline, where I voiced my displeasure with the overall direction selected by Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster. And I think the day after the trade deadline, I started to think to myself, maybe that was a bit too harsh. Maybe that was a little bit reactionary. And then I saw their collapse against the Utah Jazz. And I was once again reminded that this team is just not that good, and making it marginally better just to maybe sneak into the play-in tournament, maybe get into the playoffs where you get Boston or Milwaukee in the first round and tank your opportunity at a really good lottery pick in the draft. Like, all of those things together, that just reminded me once again that the trade deadline, the direction did not make sense. But I will say, all the focus on the direction of the team took me away from the focus on Jakob Poeltl and what this player brings to the team. Jakob Poeltl didn't choose the direction. Jakob Poeltl didn't choose his asking price and what he was valued at in terms of a trade. He's just been himself, and he is a good player that is going to help this team, and that's what we're going to do in today's video. We're going to discuss how he is going to impact this team, what he can do for this team, and why he can be a very, very important player going forward. So, first of all, throughout the offseason, throughout the season thus far, I have been an advocate of the Raptors trading for Jakob Poeltl. I think that not only has he been a Raptor, he's one of our own, as Masai Ujiri said in his press conference after the trade deadline. He is a good player that fits this team really well. In terms of the absolute perfection of a fit in the big position, yes, you would want a guy who with more ability to space the floor as a shooter. Like, that is what you absolutely want, but there are so few of those in the NBA, and they are very, very difficult to get. That some of the things that Jakob Poeltl doesn't have shooting-wise, he does make up for in other ways, and those things that he makes up for, which I'll get into in a second here, is stuff that spaces the floor more for some of the most elite players on this team. So for starters, with Jakob Poeltl, I think the biggest draw for the player is the defense. Jakob Poeltl is a great rim protector, and we've seen that already in just 2 games with the Raptors, where he's kind of just been thrown into the fold. I mean, he played in that Utah game, having not even practiced once with the Raptors, but he's played with a lot of the guys currently on the team, like Siakam and Van Vliet, just to name a couple. He has also played with Nick Nurse before. Nick Nurse has been somewhat of a key part in his development early on in his career, and there was an understanding a little bit for Jakob Poeltl to just come in and play his game. The Raptors have been missing that presence from a rim protector standpoint all throughout the season. It's been so easy to see. Somebody who has never watched basketball at all in their life could watch a Raptors game from earlier on in the season and notice how easy it is for the opposition team to just get to the rim and score with relative ease. Jakob Poeltl is going to take a lot of that away, and in doing so, just helping with the rim protection on defense, that is going to instill a lot of confidence in the players around him to do their jobs on the perimeter, and that is going to instill a lot of confidence in Nick Nurse to be a little bit more aggressive with those players on the perimeter as well, knowing that you have that sort of security blanket, if you will, that if you do get beat, Jakob Poeltl is going to there, or if you're getting beat, or maybe you usher that player in a controlled manner into the paint where they are met by that rim protector. How many times have I talked about that this season? And it's been a joy to watch. The last couple of games, I didn't do live streams, unfortunately, because I've been away. There's been a lot going on. I've lost my voice and all that, but it's been great to see the Raptors with an actual interior presence on defense that is affecting games. And in very short moments right now, very short minutes, shorter minutes than he has gotten with the San Antonio Spurs last season. So we can expect these things to get better as he becomes more comfortable with everybody within this Toronto Raptors unit. And so far this season, I mean, Jakob Poeltl, this might be the best time to trade for the player. I think that there's some misconceptions maybe as far as his age. Jakob Poeltl is a young player. He is 27 years old, and he right now was in the midst of a career year with the San Antonio Spurs, putting up a career high in points, putting up a good amount of assists, good amount of rebounds as well. I mean, we can see what this guy is going to bring to this team, adding into our defensive rebounding. And though the Raptors' half-court offense, maybe it's taking a hit, we'll talk about the offense in a second here. The offensive rebounding could be a key part of the way the Raptors create shots. Some would say that offensive rebounding is shot creation. And if you're a Raptors fan right now, that is definitely something that is going to be pivotal for the rest of the year. He's good with his blocks. Though blocks don't tell the entire story of a player on defense. The field goal percentage is excellent. A big blemish to his game definitely is the free throw percentage, which at above 60% with the Spurs in those 46 games this season is on pace to be a career high. So far with the Raptors in 2 games, it has not looked that good. But as far as the offense here, I mean, Raptors fans, we know all throughout the season, the floor spacing has been a problem. Now, it's been a little bit better lately. Gary Trent's playing a lot better. Fred VanVleet's playing a lot better. Scotty Barnes seems to be hitting a few more shots. Precious Achiuwa's been chipping in more. Siakam has faded off a little bit, but maybe in the last few games, he's kind of risen up a bit more with his three-point shooting. But overall, we know the floor spacing is a problem with the Raptors, and adding in Jakob Poeltl, well, I tell you what, adding in Jakob Poeltl doesn't make that better. This guy just straight up doesn't shoot threes. So fans were looking at other players around the league like, well, Miles Turner is a guy who can play defense. And on offense, he can actually shoot the 3-ball. And yes, these points are valid for a player like that, but that's a lot more difficult to get than Jakob Poeltl. And if you're upset with the asking price for Jakob Poeltl, which, I kind of am, well, you'd probably be even more upset with the asking price it would have taken to actually bring in Miles Turner. But I mentioned earlier that just because you can't space the floor from a shooting standpoint, it does not mean you can't space the floor in other ways. We've been asking for a player in the big position to be able to play in that high post playmaking role, and Jakob Poeltl has developed significantly as a passer in his career. I mean, I think the playmaking on offense is part of the draw from a drafting perspective when he was selected 9th overall by the Toronto Raptors. Now, we didn't want to get rid of him. Masai Ujiri did not want to get rid of Poeltl, but if Jakob Poeltl was the sticking point between acquiring or not acquiring Kawhi Leonard, well, that decision sort of made up itself, and it also brought back a player in Danny Green, 2 guys that were pivotal in winning the championship, though Kawhi Leonard, obviously a lot more pivotal to that championship than Danny Green. If I can trade Jakob Poeltl for that NBA championship, I would do that 101 times out of 100. It was unfortunate that he was a player that had to go in that deal because the fans and the more importantly, the staff with the Raptors did not want to get rid of him, but they have their guy back here, and the playmaking in the high post is a bit of a draw. But that's not all when it comes to Poeltl, especially in the Utah game. Like, we saw this for sure. He is a great screen setter. And if you look at a team like Memphis, which I think is a good example of a team that just has excellent screen setters, like Steven Adams, maybe the best in the league at doing so. Brandon Clark, also very good at doing that. John Morant gets so much space to attack the rim and just do what he wants. John Morant's such an exceptional player, but he gets that extra space a lot of the time from those screens that are being set. Now, I'm not saying John Morant can't be an exceptional player without those screens, but it helps. And you watch Memphis games, it makes a difference. So having a player like that within our team is going to give a lot of our main players more time to operate, a little bit of extra time to create something for themselves, create something for another player, and that's just good to see. Also with those screens, it provides a pick and roll threat that the Raptors just really have not had over the course of the season. So it adds a bit of dynamism to the offense, having him in there. Sure, there are some deficiencies in what he does, but there are other things in which he heightens the game that the Raptors play. So overall, with the fit, defensively, I love it. I think this is almost a perfect player that we could have gotten defensively. Offensively, there's a lot that he brings to the table. There's certainly a lot that he brings to the table. But the bigger thing is on the value, how much we traded for him. The bigger thing is on the current team in its current state. The team right now, I mean, we were on pace to get a pretty high lottery pick here. And, you know what? Maybe that loss to Utah, a team that sold to the deadline where we were playing at home and up by 11 points late. Maybe that's an indication that we're still going to get that high lottery pick, and they'll almost collapse against the Pistons yesterday. Another indication we may still get that high lottery pick. But as the team starts to figure it out, I would say we are going to be in play-in tournament position. And Masai Ujiri in his press conference after the trade deadline said maybe his opinion on the play-in tournament has changed compared to that Tampa season based on what's going on around everywhere, not playing in Tampa anymore. And I think I would disagree with that. I think many fans would disagree with that. But it does seem like we are destined for that play-in tournament. So what the frustrating part is that we've taken ourselves out of high lottery contention likely. And we're going to go into a play-in tournament where if we get out of the play-in tournament, we run into likely Boston or Milwaukee in the first round. Now, I love the Raptors. I support the Raptors. I very much struggle to see the Raptors winning more than one game in either of those series. It just is what it is. Those teams are built way better. They are way better. They're just better teams overall. That's not disrespectful to say. So I thought it would have been more worthwhile to prioritize going for a draft pick while adding in assets. But the Raptors saw an opportunity to bring back Poeltl. You don't have to deal with all the free agency stuff where maybe he goes somewhere else, maybe you get into a bidding war on that stuff. And though that could still be the case, I think it's much more likely to extend him after having him on the team for the rest of the season. And I would say with almost certainty that he will be back and they will re-sign Jakob Poeltl, or else why would they have traded him? What they're going to get from this situation is the bird right for the player. And that's likely where a lot of the asking price came in, the Spurs understanding this situation. The Raptors traded away this year's second-round pick, which is on pace to be quite a good second. Also, the 2024 first-round pick, which is top 6 protected. Like, those are very light protections for a player like Poeltl. And also a 2025 second-round pick. In the process, we also dumped that Khem Birch salary, which is a little bit significant. We don't have to worry about that in the offseason as we are looking now to re-sign a lot of players, as you guys may already know at this point. But that's a lot of an asking price to have Poeltl for the rest of the season, to get his bird rights, and to get off that Khem Birch contract. Now, I believe that that is a little bit too high of an asking price from the San Antonio Spurs. I would have been comfortable with a top 10 or top 14 protected pick, but this is the indication to the fans, to the fan base, that next season, the front office really wants to go for it. The front office really believes this team can back to proper, solidified playoff positioning with having Jakob Poeltl here for the rest of this season and for the season next. Like, that is going to make a difference, adding in other players. And also, I will say, to be fair, a lot of the offers that I saw that were in play for Fred VanVleet, like the Clippers offer was just terrible for Fred VanVleet. That was never really going to happen. And for OG Anunoby, a lot of these trade offers just weren't that good. Yeah, 3 first-round picks were offered, but there were 3 poor first-round picks. And teams were refusing to add a player into the mix there. And also, to be fair, some bad trades were offered, and Masai Ujiri understands that you're likely going to get better trade offers in this summer. And Bobby Marks, one of ESPN's senior reporters as it comes to these trade deadlines, mentioned that whatever offer you can get in February, you're likely going to get a better one in the offseason when it comes to June. And my prediction at this point would be by the draft, around the draft, OG Anunoby does get moved for those 3 picks plus a young player, which opens up cap space to maybe re-sign all of VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., and Jakob Poeltl. But overall, still upset with the way the deadline panned out, the direction that was ultimately chosen by the team, and I'm upset by the asking price that was paid for Jakob Poeltl. But I'm understanding at this point that Masai Ujiri identified that this can be a key player. I'm understanding to that fact that he wanted his guy, and he got him. He was willing to pay up the price to get that player with the plans he has for the offseason. But my faith in the front office definitely has faltered in this case, and there's a lot that needs to be answered in the offseason to get the Raptors back to where they are expected to be next season after trading again that 2024 pick. But all things aside, in the front office part of it, Jakob Poeltl is a good player. He fits this team really well. I'm excited to see what he can do and what he can do to help this team for the rest of the season, because the decision has been made. This team is going out there to win games. Let's go find another one tomorrow. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to hit that like button. It does go a long way to supporting the channel. And make sure you subscribe to Amateur Sports for more Raptors coverage just like this.